Dandavat pranams to all of our friends around the world. I'm here in Budapest, Hungary at the moment. We just had a few days of very nice programs with the devotees here. One of the topics that has been coming up, like a theme that's been coming up again and again, is the importance of association, sadhu-sanga, but not just in a generic sense. We tend to think of association meaning, we go to the temple or we meet with other devotees, other practitioners, and we do some service, and we do kirtan, and we participate in arati, we listen to the talks, we hear from the senior Vaishnavas. But actually it's a lot there. It's more complicated. There's more depth to it than that. And this is something that Srila Gurudev has spoken about. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's a famous line of Srila Rupa Goswami where he describes what is the best kind of association. Sajatiya yashe snigde sadhu-sanga satovare, which means, and here Srila Rupa Goswami gives two criteria for the best which one should look for in seeking the best association. First point, that they must be in the same line as ourselves. Literally the verse says, with the same type of snigda, which means affection, the same mood of devotion as oneself. So in the same line, the same mood, that type of association we want. And then the second criteria mentioned there in association to seek out is a person who is superior to ourselves, who is more advanced, more developed than ourselves on the path. So this is a famous verse which is quoted many times by our gurus. But our Gurudev, he's added another point here, a third point, that the person in whom we are seeking to associate with must actually care about us, must have some specific concern, affection, and personal interest in our welfare. And when I first heard Srila Gurudev say that, I came across him saying that, it was revolutionary for me, because I experience and I see with other practitioners that they sometimes feel that they're meant to force, kind of in an artificial way, they try to force some kind of superior association, or may try to seek advice from a senior Vaishnav who they don't actually feel such a deep heart connection with. So that was something revolutionary. Vaishnav may be more advanced than ourselves, but there may not be a particular heart bond, a heart connection there, and because of that, they're not able to give us the advice that we need. So this is something important for us to consider. We want to develop those kinds of relationships with Vaishnavas with whom we have, a real, deep connection with. There's also, who we can really, really for us to make progress in a conscious way, we need to be able to open our hearts to a Vaishnav. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he is expressed very beautifully, we must let the Vaishnav enter the workshop of our heart. We must let the Vaishnav enter the workshop of our heart. There's so much adjustment that needs to take place, so much fine-tuning or not so fine-tuning that needs to take place. And so we need to have that connection with the Vaishnav, who has that specific care for us, and with whom we feel comfortable to truly open our hearts to in a deep way. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, there's also a place where, also I wanted to mention, not so long ago, about 6-8 months ago, I was in Ukraine, and I was very inspired by one exchange I had with a young devotee there, and we were talking on some points related to this discussion. And at one point, one young lady devotee, I was very surprised and very impressed. She just, in the middle of the public not public, but it was in the temple in a class going on, so there were maybe 15 devotees present. She just opened her heart and said that she knew the reason she wasn't making progress was because there was no Vaishnav with whom she felt able to open her heart to. And I commended her for her courage in being able to say that, and also the fact that she was able to recognize that she had that type of clarity within herself, that she understood for her to go forward she needed to find that kind of Vaishnav who she could really trust and open her heart to and receive appropriate guidance. And Srila Sridhar, and I can also add that my response to her was simply to pray to Guru and Gauranga to give that kind of association. There are periods we will go through when we do feel alone, but there are also periods when we have friends. So sometimes actually both are helpful to us. Both of these phases, they are helpful to our spiritual development. But that's another discussion. But to go back to our topic, I also wanted to mention Srila Sridhar. She's also discussed this point, and there's one place where it's published in Sermons Volume 3, where someone asks Srila Sridhar, can you tell us what is the most efficient way? What is the most efficient method by which we can make the maximum amount of progress? And then Srila Sridhar, she quoted a number of verses from the scriptures which are speaking of the value of sadhu-sanga. Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavantu hit karna. There's many verses like this. So he quoted a number of these. And then he asked this devotee, so is your question answered now? And that devotee responded, yes, I can understand you're saying that sadhu-sanga, to have association of the sadhu, that is the best way to make advancements, the quickest way to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. And Srila Sridhar, she said, that is true, but that is not enough, actually. And then he quoted I believe it's the 5th verse of Upadeshamrita, which is describing the 6 loving exchanges: Dadati, Pratigranati, Guya, Magyati, Prichati, Bunjai, what is it? Bunjayate, Sadvidam, Priti Lakshanam. I'm missing. Bunje, Bujayate, Chaivam, Sadvidam. But these 6, these are very well known. This verse is describing 6 ways in which we can intimately associate with anyone in this world. And the idea here is that we should try to keep this type of close association amongst the Vaishnavas, because in these intimate exchanges there is an exchange of energy, of consciousness, which will affect us. So those 6 exchanges are to give gifts, to receive gifts, so exchange of gifts, to open one's heart, to reveal one's heart in confidence to the Vaishnav, and also to inquire and to hear from the Vaishnav. And then thirdly, to offer prasad and to receive prasad. So these are the 6 loving exchanges mentioned. So Srila Sridhar, she was making this point that we need to have close association. Just to go and sit in the temple and to hear the class, or just to go and do service in a generic kind of way, it is not enough, But we need to have, there needs to be someone who we can lay our hearts out on a plate in front of, And, ideally that Vaishnava will be superior, more advanced to us. Although we can also add here, Srila Gurudev, he mentioned once that sometimes it's more helpful to have the association of a Vaishnava who is more advanced than ourselves, but not too much advanced. Because if they're too far beyond ourselves, then we can only get so much from them. like a kindergarten student hanging out with a PhD student, how much are they going to be able to get? It would be more helpful for them to have the association of someone who's in class 1 or class 2, because that's a jump, but it's not too much of a jump. So it's relatable. There's some point of reference or some point of contact there. So anyhow, that's another point. But I was going to say, ideally we have association with Vaishnavas who are superior to ourselves, but that's not always possible. Ideally we can open our hearts to a Vaishnava more advanced, but if it's not possible, then at least a Vaishnava who is on an equal level to ourselves, who is on more or less on the same platform as ourselves. We can also take their counsel, hear their advices, their opinions, and simply with all sincerity make the best decision that seems correct in the circumstances. So anyhow, a few words on this topic of association, sadhu-sanga. This is the primary means by which we can make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Sadhu-sanga, 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 sarva shastra koi, lava matra sadhu-sanga, sarva siddhi hoy. This is just one of many verses. Sadhu-sanga, sadhu-sanga, all those scriptures declare all perfection can be achieved through one instant, one moment's association with a true sadhu. So, it is of utmost value to us in our progress. However, we want to make sure that we're actually having, real, substantial association. Otherwise, as Gurudev would say, we are like the louse. We are like lice in the hair. We're not really making, we are there physically, but we're not actually making a substantial connection. So, something to consider. Okay, my Dandavat pranams to all of the Vaishnavas, praying for all of your affection and blessings. All glories to our beloved Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar, Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, and all of his faithful followers.